Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Chris and Cameron. It's episode 22, and we have a special guest coming on to our show. We have basketball analyst, Pro Insight, Zach Welch coming on, and he's going to talk about UK Pro Day that happened on Tuesday, and it was exciting times. I was there at the event. It was cool to see all the NBA scouts there, along with Deron Rippey, the recruit, and his dad. I got to talk to them for a little bit. Got to get to know them a little bit before the scrimmage happened and all the drills. But how are you doing, Cameron?
Doing good, doing good. I love the interview with Zach, so I'm excited for you guys to see that. But yeah, some pro day. It's officially basketball season, so we got some goods to talk about.
Yeah, and we're going to get right into it. We're not really even going to be talking about football at all. Like UK, they got killed against Georgia, so there's really no point in talking about that game or matchup at all. We'll definitely be talking about Texas, but we're going to just be focusing for Kentucky basketball this week's and Pro Day, like I said, happened on Tuesday. And the two things that stuck out to me during Pro Day was Otego away. He did not participate in any of the drills. He was caught beforehand, just dribbling a little bit and just shooting jump shots before pro day actually happened. But on the other hand, Jayden Quaintance, he participated at the very beginning of pro day, just doing non-contact drills, and he was actually dunking. But then Mikel McLean, the assistant coach for UK, who told him to not dunk anymore, so he had to stop dunking. But it was great to see at least Quaintance participating a little bit.
Yeah, it was funny to see JQ go and like he already did the one dunk, and then he's going. He's like, "Hey, am I good to dunk?" And then they're just like, "No, no, 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 no." But yeah, so definitely keep him as safe and wrap him in bubble wrap right now, and just let's keep him maintained and all that. But yeah, overall it was really cool. I got the public view, like you said, you were there, but I got to experience it from the couch and watching it at home. So I really got to see more of Goose and did Gabriel than I did the players, it felt like. But overall, an awesome pro day. It was really really cool. I liked it this year.
Yeah, I mean, how was it watching on television compared to me being actually at the event?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was like I said, I was really hoping this year would be different, and maybe they would show more. And I don't know. It was just the same old, same old. Like I said, it's been over the years, different people on different broadcasts, whatever. But so not a whole lot of actual basketball. You really get to hear them talk. But it was really interesting to have the coaches come on because they would have them one at a time. They have Feger, AB. They had different guys coming on. So that was interesting. But like there wasn't necessarily deep like insight from anybody.
Uh-huh.
So it was cool, and it's kind of I've always considered pro day like the introduction to basketball season, where you're like, all right, it's back. You finally get to see all the guys like they're back in full effect. You get to see them in uniform. So that aspect of it, like that filled the void that I was wanting, where I was like, you know what, we're here. Basketball season's back, so I was excited for that.
Yeah, and before Pro Day, it was basically Big Blue Madness that introduced basketball again for UK, and I'm excited for Big Blue Madness. That of course is happening on Saturday. I'll be at that event, so I'm excited to see what the team will look like along with the recruits that are coming in. Of course, Caleb Holt, he's going to be on an unofficial visits, and I believe two other recruits are also going to be on campus, so that'll be exciting, but exciting times. But let's get back into the Pro Day. And we're going to be talking about players that stood out to us. And in my honest opinion, Jaland Lowe, he stood out to me. I talked to him on Monday during media day, and he believes UK they have the best backcourt in the nation, the country. And he said he feels like he's taken over more of a leadership role with Otego away being out recently with his turf toe injury. And whenever I saw him at Pro Day, he looked like he's going to be point guard one. We're going to have the best backcourt in the nation, and I truly do believe that. And I feel like his scoring may temper off a little bit compared to his time at Pitt, but he's still going to be scoring a lot while also getting rebounds and getting players open, getting assists.
Yeah, you've highlighted Jalen like big time, where you said one thing that you had noticed, you said this during the interview that like players would go under screens and he was able to pop a three right there and be able to hit those. So like that difference will
Mhm.
obviously be astronomical if he's able to stop and pop, hit those. But his speed is just second to none. Like he literally, it feels like he takes off in 2 seconds and he's down the court.
Mhm.
He's able to find other guys in great spots, and he was definitely a big takeaway. Where it was kind of like, we've heard about him, we've seen practice clips that are like less than a minute long, but here we are actually getting to visualize and see what this man's going to be for Big Blue Nation, and like get to see what he's going to like be for this team this year. So it was really cool just to see him and kind of see what he's going to be for Pope this year. So yeah, Jaylen Lowe was kind of my big takeaway, where he's going to be more efficient, and he's just going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, he might score a little bit less. He averaged 16.8 points per game last year with Pitt, and then he only shot 37.6% from the field and then 26.6% from the three-point line. And basically, I could see his points going down a little bit. Maybe he's only averaging 12 or 13 points per game, but easily his shooting percentage goes up. Like, I could see him easily shooting 45% from the field and then maybe like 35-40% from the three. Like he doesn't have to do all for UK compared to last year being at Pitt, and that's the one good thing about him.
Yeah, no doubt. He's definitely going to have a lot less weight on his shoulders for sure, because he's going to be able to find guys, and it's not going to be an offense where it's like demanding on him to be able to supply and just do all these things, where it's not going to be centered around him. And Zach pointed out that he has been great off the ball, which is very encouraging to hear, because it's like if he can be good off the ball, we already know he can be good on the ball, and he's going to be more efficient because he's not going to have to force stuff. So he's going to be a special player for us this year. You can just already see in pro day and in the practice clips so far, like you can tell this guy's going to be it this year.
Yeah, and to talk about more of his other stats, he averaged 5.5 assists, 4.2 rebounds, and 1.8 steals per game. And I could see his assist numbers going up. I could see his rebounds going down a little bit, not too much, maybe a rebound. And then I could see his steals also going down a little bit. Like if he's still averaging one steal a game along with four rebounds, and let's say he starts to average like 7 assists per game and his scoring goes down to 13, I'm perfectly fine with that. Like he's contributing at least 27 points per game if he's doing 13 and 7 assists, a night.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. And the one thing that I do remember hearing Goose say on the broadcast, which I thought was interesting, because you hadn't really heard a whole lot about this, where like I feel like in the offseason people talked about maybe Aberdeen coming in, playing a little bit of a point guard role if we need it. But the one thing that Goose had mentioned on the broadcast that I'd never heard from anybody was that there's a potential Jasper running the one at times, where he had mentioned that Jasper is like right there. And they did say that Jasper and Aberdeen were the two that would like go head to head in practice, and that was very beneficial on Jasper's end. But he referenced Jasper could be a one at times, which I really thought he'd kind of be off the ball more. But
Yeah.
I think him being a one would obviously help his draft stock too, being able to play different positions. But that was an interesting point that I remember Goose saying on the broadcast.
Yeah, and he could definitely play the one for sure. I mean, I remember watching him play once. Of course, he left Woodford County. He went to, I believe, Huntington Prep, and I remember whenever he did come back to Woodford County, he would be dribbling the ball a lot, like being the point guard, and he could easily be a point guard, like coming off the bench and doing that. And if he does that, like you said, it could improve his draft stock, and I would love to see Jasper Johnson. Of course, I would love to see him stay for a couple of years, but if he is one and done, so be it. But I definitely see him being at least a 2-year player, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, I think definitely this year it's just going to be super tough to have that man find a ton of minutes to where he's going to be like a top 10 pick or something. So like I could definitely see him being a 2 year guy, playing his role this year and then having more of a leadership role next year as a sophomore with some freshmen coming in and him being able to lead a little bit more, maybe with Jalen coming back too, playing alongside him for a second year. So Jasper's definitely going to be kind of the wild card. Like we talked to Zach, where there's been a ton of crazy debates either way on far extremes on how good Jasper's going to end up being, and I land a little bit somewhere in the middle where it's kind of like, what, we'll just have to see it. But
Yeah.
yeah, him playing the one and just Jasper in general can be fun to follow all year.
Yeah. Hey, could you imagine if he becomes like the next Devin Booker, just comes off the bench and just shoots the ball like nonstop, just be able to drain threes and then becomes a lottery pick in his freshman year? Like that would be insane.
Yeah, that'd be sick. I wouldn't mind that at all.
Yeah, I would love that as well. But continuing to talk about the team, we're going to still talk about the freshmen. Let's go ahead and talk about Malachi Moreno. He honestly really impressed me going into pro day because I knew basically whenever I saw him during high school, he needed to just gain some muscle, needed to gain some weight because he would always get not bullied, but I would definitely say like players who were smaller than him but had more muscle than him, he would always get like bullied in the post or whatever it might be, and I'm glad he's actually gained that muscle, gained that weight because he looks a lot better. He looks like he'll be able to compete. And right now, of course, Jayden Quaintance is out, but easily Malachi Moreno could easily be the backup center to Brandon Garrison until Quaintance gets healthy.
Yeah, no doubt. I do remember a lot of talk, especially while he was going through his senior year, where it was like he's gonna have to pick up some weight if he's gonna end up trying to play. And even early summer, where people were worried just by how he looked, he hadn't gained a ton or whatever, but he's definitely gained and he's filled out his body a lot more. And he looks SEC ready right away. Like he looks like he could play as a freshman. So, and you can kind of tell what role he's going to have. He's going to be, kind of be floating around dunker spot and playing that type of role as the five. And I think he's going to be really good for us. Like you said, as the backup right away. But I'm excited to see what Malachi's able to do right away.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do for sure. And we've got to continue to talk about Malachi Moreno. So there was a video I saw as I was eating my dinner earlier tonight at Kate's Farm Grill. If y'all haven't gone there, I would definitely recommend it. It's Matt Jones's place. Great place. And Wednesday they give out $1 wings, $1 for each wing. I'm not promoting it, like it's not a sales, but I would definitely check it out and everything. But this kid with UK Sports Network, he was sponsored with RMHC Bluegrass, and the kid asked every player what their go-to meal was at McDonald's. You know what Malachi Moreno said?
I actually just saw this like right before we got on here. The 40 nuggets is crazy.
I know, 40 nuggets and two Sprites. I could not believe that whenever I saw that. And I immediately quote tweeted that tweet and I said, can we get Malachi Moreno an NIL deal with McDonald's now?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the two sprites is impressive, but the 40 nuggets is crazy. And it was so funny seeing like all the guys' reactions where they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I believe it. Yeah, that's definitely what he eats." Like,
Yeah, I get it. He's 7 feet tall and he's only 18 years old and he's still a growing boy, but holy moly, 40 nuggets. So I cannot imagine eating that. Like, I could not imagine eating 40 nuggets in just a week.
yeah, no, he's doing it in just one sitting. That's so crazy. I had no idea what he was gonna say, but that was the craziest answer. And he said, "Yeah, I went there the other night and I got 40 nuggets, two sprites. Like it was just normal for him."
Yeah, like normal. So maybe McDonald's and Malachi can get sponsored together now.
Yeah, that would be quite the NIL deal. He'd also save a little money if he's even having to buy it right now, but it'd save a little bit.
Yeah, I think Brandon Garrison got a sponsorship deal with McDonald's last year, like during like the NCAA tournament March Madness. So that was cool to see. I believe it was with McDonald's. I know it was with some fast food company.
Yeah, that sounds right. I feel like I remember seeing BG get a deal with McDonald's or something. I feel
Yeah.
like that sounds right.
So now if BG doesn't have a sponsorship with McDonald's, you found the perfect replacement with Moreno.
Yeah, no doubt. Moreno's sitting right there. Perfect NIL deal.
Yeah, perfect NIL deal. So if y'all see this McDonald's, also give us an NIL deal, even though we're not in college anymore.
Yeah, no doubt. Wouldn't have hated an NIL deal with them.
Yeah, but now let's continue to talk about the front court though. Like, let's talk about Brandon Garrison. Of course, he came from Oklahoma State. He transferred to UK last year. He knew he wasn't going to be the starter because the Marty Williams was going to be the starting center, and I feel like Garrison made the most of it coming off the bench. He averaged 5.9 points, 3.9 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 0.9 steals, and zero point 0.6 blocks per game in just 17.3 minutes per game. And honestly, I believe he looks a lot healthier, stronger compared to last year. I know the main thing for him was he wanted to be in better conditioning going into the season. I feel like he's done that. He looks a lot stronger. It just depends now if he can translate all he has done over the summer and improve, can he actually be able to read the court, make the plays like he is supposed to, or continue to be a little slow on the court and not make the right plays?
Yeah, I'm excited to see this year two BG because like you said, it's year two for him under Pope, and that was kind of when he got recruited. That was the pitch was like it's a multi-year type of deal. So like you said, he didn't have a ton of action in general last year because of playing behind Amari, but now he's going to be hoisted in that different role. So, I mean, what we've seen so far, it looks like we'll end up having a great 1-2 punch until JQ's back with him and Malachi. So I'm excited to see what BG can do, but I'm very confident that he'll be able to and especially just watching a little bit of pro day. Like I feel like I am confident. It feels like he's just gonna be a much better version of what he was last year. Not gonna be a first team All American, but he's gonna be better version of what he was last year for us.
Yeah, and that's what UK needs with Jayden Quaintance out. There's been reports that he'll be back come January potentially, or maybe a little bit earlier, maybe sometimes in December. So we'll definitely keep y'all up to date about Owe and Quaintance's injuries and whenever they get back from their injury and being 100% healthy as well.
Yeah, those are the big two to keep watch on. That we're definitely counting down the days till they get back.
Yeah, hey, the exhibition season is coming up soon. I think the first exhibition game is against Purdue, of course, but I believe it's October 24th, so it's coming up quickly.
Yeah, no doubt. And the sad thing is obviously JQ's not going to play
Yeah,
in the exhibitions, but I have heard a lot of people say that Ortega is leaning towards playing, but one of the guys that I talked to at UK, he's not confident that that Owe will end up playing in the exhibitions or the blue white game for that matter. But so that would be disappointing because I'd like to see most of our team outside see everybody outside of JQ against like Purdue, but we may end up not having that opportunity. But we just need Ortega back for the season. That
yeah.
Louisville game coming up very soon. So those are the important ones.
Yeah, I would love to see just UK fully healthy against Purdue. Like, of course, they've got a great team, Braden Smith, coming back for another year. Like, Purdue, they're going to have another insane team. If they aren't the number one team, they'll be at least, number two or number three. Like, I would be highly surprised if they're ranked, not even number one, but like, I would be highly
Yeah.
surprised if they're not in the top three. They should be number one, though, in my honest opinion. Maybe Houston over them, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's just gonna be them or Houston. That'll be the 1 and 2. But Zach referred to it, and that's what I've been excited about as well. Just with Purdue because they're gonna have, he said CJ Cox, they'll have Fletcher Loyer, or Braden Smith. They'll have arguably the best backcourt in college basketball, along with the best front court, bringing back Trace Jackson Davis, or not Trace Jackson Davis, Trey Kaufman Wren. If there's a Purdue fan watching this, they'll probably comment about that. But yeah, he's coming back. Oscar Clough is coming in, so it's a front court that's going to be up there with some of the best in the country. And then they have the wild card Omer Meyer that's from overseas, and he's been incredible. So he's going to be kind of a secondary point guard, kind of combo guard type of role, and he's going to be really good. So we're going to have our hands full, but I'm excited for it. In Rupp, it'll be a fun one.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a fun one, and I know ticket prices are through the roof. I think like the cheapest ticket's like $100 or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's got to be the most expensive exhibition game tickets of all time.
Yeah, probably. But enough talking about Purdue. Let's get back onto our subject of pro day, and I want to talk about Trent Noah. Like Trent Noah, he looked insane. Like, of course, he played great last year whenever he finally got his chance to come off the bench and make plays and everything. And of course, he really started to make plays during that Tennessee game whenever UK upset Tennessee away in Knoxville, and it was a great win. I couldn't believe it, and basically after that game, he was very consistent what UK needed. He consistently played great defense, not the greatest, but okay, good defense, but he was that three-point shooter that UK needed. And basically if you needed a shot, he was going to make it for you.
Yeah, he was definitely the more he got that PT late, he it felt like every now and then you just see him come flying in for like a long rebound off of a three
Yeah.
or something. Like he was always that type of guy that made a play that you weren't expecting at a certain time. So he did all of that on top of being a really good 3-point shooter. And like you said, he's gonna be one to fill it up all year. He's hit like the numbers this offseason where it feels almost like overwhelming how people have talked about him where they're like, I haven't seen him miss. Like they'll just say, even the players will be like, I haven't seen him miss in weeks. Like they're just raving about this guy shooting, and it's been awesome to
Yeah.
hear about.
Yeah, and for Trent Noah, he played in 24 games last year, but only averaged 11.1 minutes per game. He also only had 2.7 points per game, but his shooting was great, 45.1%. Of course, he always wanted to try and hit that 50% from the field, but I was honestly surprised that he only shot 1.5 3 points per game and only shot 33.3% from behind the mark. And I thought, all the games I watched, I'm like, he's actually killing it. He's making threes. And I thought he was making, or he was attempting like 2 or 3 attempts per game, but he was only attempting 1.5. And I would like to see him double that number at least this upcoming year. Like take 3 or 4 3-point attempts a game. Like I would love to see that for sure.
Yeah, I felt like early in this offseason where we were kind of seeing this roster get constructed, Trent was going to be the guy that kind of got buried towards the end of the bench and wasn't going to have a lot of playing time. But just his 3-point shooting alone is going to be, it's like you're just going to have to put him on the floor. He's going to be in games, making big time plays, and it's going to be fun to see what Trent can do, and hopefully with more numbers, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what he does. Another player that I found interesting watching was Andrea Jelovic. He didn't look the best. He didn't impress me the most. Of course, he's coming from overseas. He was playing in Croatia. He's actually listed as a sophomore at UK, so he's not a freshman. I mean, granted, he is 21 years old, so it makes sense that he's not technically a freshman, but he's listed as a sophomore this year at UK, and he has definitely a lot of work. Uh, he's a work in progress in my honest opinion, but if he can be consistent this year, that's all we need from him. And, maybe later down in the line that he can become, Andrew Carr, like what he was last year, like Andrew Carr, first year or his super senior year at UK, he played great, even though he was dealing with a back injury. And hopefully, Andrei Jelovic could become like an Andrew Carr for UK later on.
Yeah, Andrew Carr, I hope he gets the respect he deserves over time because he's a guy that was just special here. And but yeah, Yelovich, if he can be, 70% of what Andrew did and stay healthy, hopefully, he would be amazing for us. And there were sometimes whenever they would do the up and down with the scrimmage, where Yelovich was making plays, making the correct plays, whether it was passing up a good shot for a great shot or just finding a teammate open or getting like a hockey assist where you can see something down the line and he can pass and develop that. So he did some really good things in that pro day that I really liked. And he got punished a little bit. He had to run up to the wall. So we got to see that part of Andrea too.
Yeah, that was pretty funny where he had to run up all the way to the top of historic Memorial Coliseum. I'm like, what is he doing? Because I didn't see what he exactly did on the court. I just saw him running up the stairs. I'm like, why is he running up there? So apparently, like, I guess from what I heard on from people around me, apparently he passed up a shot. Mark Pope told him to shoot it. And then apparently he back to Mark Pope, and Mark Pope's like run up to the end of the steps, basically.
Yeah, I mean I think he's gonna learn his lesson. Obviously, yeah, he'll learn it down the road where he's not gonna want to keep running all those steps over and over. He'll listen to Pope right away.
Yeah, I feel like for Andrea Jelovic, though, like he's a work in progress, of course, coming from overseas to Lexington playing college basketball now. The one thing I would like to see him work on is definitely other than his footwork in the post and everything, is just to be more of a consistent 3-point shooter. I wasn't really impressed with his 3-point shooting. Granted, it was only a scrimmage for practice, but I thought with him, shooting the ball, like it looked like he shot the ball very well overseas whenever I saw the highlight video. So I was a little disappointed in his shooting though going into pro day or being at pro day.
Yeah, like you said, I think he's gonna be a work in progress, and maybe that'll come along as well with just more familiarity with the offense and everything, and that he'll end up hitting shots over time and making the right plays. But I am excited because it's just like with him being a work in progress, it's not like we have all of our cards pushed in on him being a special guy that has to be our like four man.
Mhm.
While we have all these other guys, he can kind of just get in the flow of things and get used to being with this team.
Yeah, and then we'll talk a little bit about the backcourt now. I mean, Denzel Aberdeen, he's definitely very, I would say he's sneaky athletic. Like you wouldn't expect him like he's 6'5", but he doesn't look like 6'5" on the court. He looks shorter than that. He looks like 6'2" or 6'3", and it doesn't look like he would be able to dunk because like looking from him from across the court, he looks just shorter compared to everybody else. But he's definitely, I feel like, sneaky athletic. He's able to dunk the ball and everything. So I'm excited about that. I seriously could see him like other than being a catch and shoot player, like being the person that cuts backdoor and be able to get that layup or get that dunk. Like I feel like he's going to be more off the ball, more of an off the ball player and be able to score through that, whether it be a catch and shoot three or being able to slip through the paint and get an easy layup.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that with him being off the ball. And yeah, he definitely fits the sneaky athletic role where I believe it was the Missouri game at home that Florida actually lost last year, but he had a nasty poster in that one. He had a few throughout the year where it was just kind of shocking. You were like, oh, I didn't really expect the that man to just go up and posterize me like that. But yeah, I think he's going to be awesome for us this year. He's been one of those dudes that has shocked me when you've seen the like pictures taken or whatever of the Noah machine where his efficiency has been really, really good. I think it was last year, it was when in games that he started, he shot like 41% from three. And where it was higher volume that he played, he brought much more efficient stats. So I'm hoping we can get the more efficient version of Zell this year.
So are you saying he should be a starter now?
I don't know. He's gonna be a tough one. Like all offseason, like you and Zach talked about it, and all offseason I had like a different mindset of what the starters would look like. Both of y'all had Cam in it. I always thought it was gonna be Jalen, Denzel, Ortega, Mo Diabate, and BG until JQ gets back. But you all had Ortega at the two and then Cam at the three, which also I don't know which one is gonna be, but that was just what I had all offseason in my head.
Yeah, no, I've had three different starting lineups stuck in my head, whether it be uh Denzel out the two. Hey, a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up.
Mhm.
Give us a like on YouTube if you're watching it through virtually. But no, for me, I've always had three different starting lineups stuck in my head. It's either you'll have Denzel Aberdeen at the two, Oway at the three, Mo Diabate at the four, and then Brandon Garrison at the five. Or my other lineup, like I said earlier, you have Oway at the two, Williams at the three, Diabate at the four, Garrison at the five. And then the only other lineup I had was you had Jasper Johnson at the two, and then Oway at the three. And then, of course, Diabate at the four and
Yeah,
Garrison at the five.
yeah, I can definitely see a few different lineups, and like I said, like the one that you all had talked about with Cam starting, I can definitely see that because that's a lot more length, that's a lot more shooting that you'll have with Cam as the threat out there. So the starting lineup is going to be interesting, but I think you can't really go wrong whoever you throw out there off it.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about Cam Williams. We briefly talked about Jasper Johnson, but we can talk more about the backcourt, and I'm excited to see what Cam Williams can do. It looks like his jump shot is a lot quicker compared to last year being at Tulane, and the big thing for him is he just has a lot of length, basically. Like he's a 6'8" guard, 205 pounds. I feel like he's added a little bit more muscle, but it just feels like his jump shot is a lot quicker compared to last year being at Tulane.
Yeah, that's going to be something that the I think the scouts will fall in love with was like the quicker jump shot, but he I think he's just going to do a lot more than I thought he was outside of shooting. Where like during the pro day, there was a few times that you could see he blocked a three the one
Yeah.
time. There was there was just plays he was making defensively where I was actually like, all right, well, maybe he's going to be more of an all around player than I thought he was. Where I initially thought he's going to come in, be a sniper, he's going to shoot 45% from three and just be something like that for us. But no, he's going to be all over the place and play a really important role in this team.
Yeah, I feel like he'll be the 3 and D player. He was the first commit for UK. Of course, it didn't come at a great time because UK later lost to Tennessee in the Sweet 16. But, getting that commitment, couldn't you imagine if it would have been way different? UK gets the commitment of Cam Williams and UK defeats Tennessee. They go on to the Elite Eight. Like, that would have been a wild day in UK history for sure.
Yeah, that would have made one of the greatest days ever, just because it would have been a season sweep over the balls, and then you also get that commit of a dude that's going to be a future NBA player in Cam Williams.
Yeah, and like I said, I believe Cam Williams should probably be the player that either has the most 3-point attempts or the second most 3-point attempts. Like the only other player I could see having more is probably Trent Noah, maybe Colin Chandler. But like I said, the three players that I could, or maybe four, I would say four players that would like to see shoot the most. I would say it's Jasper Johnson, Cam Williams, Colin Chandler, and Trent Noah. Those four players I want to be shooting the most, at least 3-point wise.
Yeah, I think it should definitely be Cam Williams and Trent Noah above the rest, where it's like if they have a window of a shot, go ahead and fire it up because I would take a contested shot from those guys over a few different shots.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to playing time for Trent Noah. Like he's definitely going to get minutes. Like he's going to be probably be the eighth or ninth man, for the lineup and everything. So he'll be like the third or fourth player coming off the bench, in my honest opinion. But I think probably if you're looking at it right now, I would say probably Cam Williams will be leading the team with 3-point field goal attempts, and then I'll go with Trent Noah, Jasper Johnson, and then Colin Chandler. I would say like 1 through 4.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that for but yeah, those are going to be the ones that like, especially late, Colin Chandler like blew up, and
Yeah.
now we'll get to see what he can be for this team in year two, and like he's going to be like what 3-point shooting, he's going to be bringing his athleticism, he's going to be good defensively, he's going to be a really good player for us. So yeah, he's going to be up there with the threes, and but yeah, I would definitely agree with that top four.
Yeah, and of course, unless something changes and Otagowe just became a sharpshooter over the offseason, which I don't think happened. I did notice he still has that hits and jump shot. I was hoping that would go away during the offseason, but that didn't. But unless like Owe or Lowe becomes a sharpshooter for Kentucky, I just could see those four being able to shoot the most 3-point attempts. I'm not saying they'll take the most field goal attempts. Like most field goal attempts, of course, is going to go to Owe.
Yeah, no doubt. Like you said, the hitch is still there, so that kind of stinks. But overall, I mean, he'll hit the shots, and he'll definitely be the guy that's going to have the most attempts. So obviously, more of those will come at the rim. But yeah, he's going to be really good this year. Obviously, Ortega is going to be probably the preseason SEC Player of the Year. Whenever that comes out, it should be. I mean, within the coming days. But yeah, he's going to have the most shots, and I think he'll end up being a more efficient version of what he was last year because he's not going to have to kind of carry us at times.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about Colin Chandler and then get to the rest of the players. But Colin Chandler, I was not as impressed whenever I was watching him at Pro Day. Like, of course, he made the right play. There was one play where Brandon Garrison did a pick, he slipped, and then Colin Chandler got the ball right to Garrison. And I thought to myself, like that was a great play, but I wasn't really too impressed by Colin Chandler. It just felt like he was still struggling whenever he was the main ball handler, just having turnovers, whether he was passing the ball and then, of course, it got stolen or just losing control of the ball. But hopefully, Chandler, though, like, proves me wrong. Like I said, I'm very high on Colin Chandler. Like, he was great after that Vandy game. Like, that Vandy game was his coming out party, and I hope he can continue to improve his game and continue to be consistent this year for UK.
Yeah, no doubt. He's going to be a an interesting one because it feels like most people, and like you said, you're still very high on him and maybe it was just a 1 day thing where he didn't play great in front of the scouts and all that. But I think he's going to be really good, and that's what the main report has been this year, that he's made some big time strides, and he's just a gym rat. He's been working all off season, and like it'll be said until his career is done that he went on that mission trip and wasn't able to play basketball and all that. So like he is still fully getting through that. So he's still gonna have some growing and all that. But it feels like we are getting more of the what Colin Chandler is, and we'll get to see that this year.
Yeah, and I'm hoping he'll break through. Like, I would love for him to be the backup point guard, basically come off the bench to back up Jaylen Lowe. Like, I feel like right now, like I said, for the bench, I feel like Chandler would be the perfect backup point guard to Lowe. Have Johnson at the two, or for me, probably have Aberdeen at the two, Johnson at the three. And then at the four, you would have Andrea Yelovich, and then of course Malachi Moreno until Quaintance returns. That's how I would see the bench right now. Maybe even Trent Noah potentially as well.
Yeah, it's almost like laughable whenever we try to talk about like the depth and who we'll have as like the bench guys because of how deep this team is. Like it just absolutely blows my mind. Like I feel like every time you go through the roster, you just kind of like leave off a guy, and it's not even on purpose. It'll be like a guy that's going to be really good, but yeah, I could see that where I could also see a world where it's low and then maybe Aberdeen and Jasper mix and maybe not as much Colin. But I would like to see Colin there. But yeah, that one I could see Colin more as like a two and filling in that role and having Trent around there and just having the two, three, fours kind of mix all together. Like Mo D is gonna be a four, Andrea Jovic is gonna be a 4 or 5. Like those guys will stay there, but the two, three, and fours will be able to kind of be
Mhm.
very versatile with all of their games.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll talk about a few more players because we need to talk about basically we've got three more players left to talk about before we get into the podcast with Zach Welsh, but we've got to talk about Braden Hawthorne, Muhammad Diabate, and Reese Potter as well. But for Braden Hawthorne, of course, he's still skinny. He's listed on UK's website. He's 6'8" and only weighs 190 pounds. And many people compare him to Kevin Durant because of how skinny Kevin Durant is. And I would love to be compared to Kevin Durant, but you can tell that Hawthorne has game. Like he can be able to score, like be able to shoot. It just depends on, if he can take it to the rim without getting bullied or anything because like he can't go to the rim and be weak. Like he's got to be strong with it and that's the main concern for Hawthorne and you just want him to gain some weight, gain some muscle so he can be, a UK superstar in the coming years.
Yeah, especially like you said, KD, but he also gets the Tayshaun comparison, which we obviously love as BBN. But he even hit the logo three. He came off an off-ball screen and hit a logo three yesterday in pro day. So,
Uh,
like you said, he's going to be kind of Kentucky's little secret, and he's going to be kind of kept away a little bit. But he's going to play because he's just a really really good player. But we'll definitely get to see what he can be in the coming years. And like you said, he'll probably end up being a superstar here once he's picked up some weight, and obviously he'll probably continue to grow, but his
yeah.
game is going to be incredible.
Yeah, I could see him like randomly just come into the NCAA tournament and just have a Marcus Lee game. Like Marcus Lee against Michigan was insane. Like I could see Hawthorne doing this upcoming year in the NCAA tournament. Like if he does that, UK would just love him for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. If he could come in and just be a legend right away, that'd be awesome. If he could just pop in one of those games and do exactly what we need from him at that time.
Yeah, and everybody remembers Marcus Lee. Like Marcus Lee's coming out game was against Michigan, helped UK to upset them, and I think that was to go to the Final Four. So without Lee and of course without Aaron Harrison in that clutch three, UK wouldn't have gone to the Final Four that year.
Yeah, yeah. Marcus Lee's a legend. He'll forever have a special place in BBN's hearts.
Yeah, for sure. But now we'll talk about our two remaining players. We've got Mo Diabate, Mohamed Diabate, and we all know what he's going to bring to UK. We all saw what he did against UK last year at Alabama. He was just a bully to UK basically. UK, they weren't physical at all. Mohamed Diabate was a physical nature, like basically like if you were trying to, dribble the ball and he was right there, like he was like a brick wall. Nobody could get through him or anything. And that's why I'm excited for this upcoming year with him being at UK. Like he's going to be that defensive beast that UK will need.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be something we didn't have last year for sure with the physicality and just what he'll be able to bring defensively and the hustle and all of that. Like he's going to be really, really good. And he's been a leader on this team already this offseason. And I'm just excited he's on our side. Like you said, we had to play against him, and he definitely, picked on us a little bit, being the bully. So
Yeah.
having him on our squad is going to be nice. And Zach speaks a little bit more on it, so I'll let you all listen to the interview on that. But he's not going to have to do a whole lot offensively, but what he'll be able to bring defensively is going to be second to none.
Yeah, and I feel like probably for both Garrison and Diabate, I feel like the max 3-point attempts you should be shooting would be probably two 3-point attempts per player, so four in total. Like I feel like for Garrison and Diabate, they shouldn't be shooting more than two threes a game, unless they are on fire, of course. Then give them the ball, let them shoot no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't really know what the reports have been on Modi this offseason, but like there was that talk that right when he came to UK, it was like, you know what, he's gonna be able to shoot a little bit more because he was efficient, but he just didn't really shoot a whole lot. There wasn't
Yeah.
a whole lot of numbers. So I am interested to see, but like you said, it'd probably be just two a game, two per player, if they're gonna be shooting it. Just because there's so many more like great shots we could still get.
Yeah, more efficient players for sure. And then the last player that we need to talk about real quick, and then we'll get into the interview with Zach Welsh, but we'll talk about Reese Potter real quick. He is from Lexington. He played 2 years at Miami of Ohio, and the one thing I think he'll bring to this year's team, other than of course leadership and being supportive, is I just think he'll be a 3-point shooter for UK if UK needs it. I'm about to look up his stats. I thought UK had his stats, but I think he's going to be at least a player that can shoot the ball if needed. This past year at Miami of Ohio, he shot 3.4 3-point attempts. Oh wait, no, my bad. That was 2-point attempts. I apologize. He shot two 3-point attempts and shot 37% from the 3-point line, which is pretty good if you're shooting two 3-point attempts. So, like I could see him coming off the bench if UK needs him to just be able to shoot. Of course, he'll be able to defend if you need him to, but he's more of a 3-point shooter, not really a defender or anything else.
Yeah, it is crazy that that's like just our dude that's at the end of the bench. But like you said, he can definitely come in and play and do something that we need it. But yeah, having a 7-1 dude that can come off the bench and shoot threes is just a crazy, crazy luxury to have. And like you said, I mean, Devian's not going to know like a ton about him other than the fact that he's the hometown kid. And
Mhm.
but yeah, he's going to be he'll play in these early games, and we'll get to see him in those and kind of see what role he'll play. And obviously, before JQ gets back, he'll probably have to play spot minutes in some of these games.
Yeah, like I don't want him. I would say probably at max, I want to see him play. I would say probably 8 minutes at max. Like I want to see him play not 8 minutes straight, but if he has to come in for like a 3-minute stretch or whatever, so be it. But I really don't want to see him more than 8 minutes a game. Like I would have much rather seen him play maybe 5 minutes a game instead.
Yeah, I would definitely say I'm in the same boat on that one, where we're not going to need him too much, and I think our other bigs will be very capable. Even without JQ, I think Malachi and BG just offer a lot more
Hmm.
on both sides of the ball. But yeah, Reese will definitely get some clock early on in this season when we're hopefully beating teams by 70, 80 plus. Hopefully he's in there getting some clock.
Yeah, hopefully for sure. But we'll see what happens with Reese Potter. But do you have anything else you want to add to this podcast before we get into the interview with Zach?
No, sir. I think we're good. It was a fun pro day, though.
Yeah, it was a fun pro day on Tuesday, and we hope y'all enjoyed the pro day. Hopefully, y'all enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully, you'll also enjoy our interview with Zach. But let's get into that. We appreciate you all watching on YouTube and also listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But this is Chris Beesmore and
Cameron Waddle.
Donnie out. Peace. Have a great week, everybody. Hello, everyone, and welcome back into another episode of Conversations with Chris and Cameron. It's episode 22, and we're joined by a special guest today. We're joined by Zach Welch, a basketball analyst with Pro Insight, and we're going to break down Kentucky Pro Day that happened on Tuesday. How are you doing, Zach?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on.
We appreciate you coming on as well. So let's get into it, of course. The first thing that stood out to me is Way was, of course, out. He's still dealing with his turf toe. I don't know if you saw anything with Jayden Quaintance from just watching it on TV, but he did participate in some drills with non-contact drills. I mean, what do you think about his progress so far from his torn ACL?
It's really encouraging to see. He's moving well heading into the year, and I think what stood out to me is his body's looking better now than it did when he was playing last year, which is a testament to, him and his work ethic. And it's the type of thing where you just hope he can hit the ground running, and signs are pointing towards that.
Understood.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So I have a question for you. What outside of those two, obviously not being participants in it, but what stood out to you most on this year's team?
Yeah, I mean it was a really high motor group. They were really competitive, which was, a lot of fun to see. And it also, is a really valuable thing to have in a team, right? Beyond that, really deep team, which I thought was pretty fun. And I was pretty impressed with a lot of the kind of returners as well as this new crop they brought in.
Understood. And then how do you think Kentucky compares to other top programs such as Duke or Kansas?
Yeah, I mean, I think they should be right at the top, right? Like there are very few teams that are as deep as them. I mean, they probably at least 13 players deep of legit guys who belong at this level, right? And who are at the top of this level. So I think that should make them really competitive, as well as, like I said, that competitiveness, that motor. They have a lot of versatility. They can get, buckets in different ways from different positions. And what I like most about them is they can create out of their backcourt or their front court, which I think is a pretty unique thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you referenced some of the returners, and it could be one of them or maybe just somebody else. Did any like player in particular surprise you from what you thought they were, and now seeing them in person?
Yeah, I think the person who caught my eye the most was Trent Noah. Like he was just shooting the absolute lights out, doing the little things on both ends. Like really looked like he's going to be making a case for himself to be a contributor this year, right? Which was pretty exciting because I think when you look at least from the national lens, those returners, you don't hear about him quite as much, right? And he was pretty fun to see.
Yeah, and I know here locally in Lexington and of course Kentucky, a lot of people have been, big fans of Trent Noah ever since he came and really played in that Tennessee game. He really helped out UK last year, just upset Tennessee away, and like it was the most surprising win because UK at the time they didn't have their starting point guard, and then of course their backup point guard was missing as well, so it was one of the better games last year.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see Trent this year. It feels like thank you for sharing that because it feels like there's been some talk about him maybe being like a little different when it comes to shooting and being like something special. So that is very encouraging that you got to notice that too.
Yeah, and I was actually at Media Day on Monday, and I was talking to Jaland Lowe a little bit, and he believes that UK has the best backcourt in the nation. Do you agree with him with that?
They're definitely, I mean, they're right up there, right? I think they have such a special situation where, I mean, Jalen is a high level player himself. You obviously bring in Aberdeen, who is a proven winner. Ortega, when he comes back, is going to be big. But then they have like the security to develop these guys like Jasper Johnson long term, and Colin Chandler will always make a difference too, right? So they have the kind of the top end talent and the depth there to certainly make a case for that.
hmm
Yeah, I want to ask you about Jalen specifically. How did you think that he looked as a like floor general and just a passer overall as like a point guard?
I think it looks great. I think the two things that stand out the most for me with him is he can create advantages and capitalize on them well. It doesn't have to be too flashy, but knows what to do. Also knows how to play without the ball, though. And when you have guys who are able to make passes, make plays out of the front court, like Brandon Garrison and Malachi Moreno, like it's nice having a point guard who isn't lost without the ball in his hands. So he's really versatile in that way, which I really appreciate with him.
Yeah, and you just brought up Malachi Moreno. What do you think about his development so far, and like where do you think he could go with his potential?
Yeah, Malachi's a player I've seen, a lot going back to, coming out of his junior year of high school. And he the biggest thing with him that stood out is he looks so much more physical
Yeah.
and and so much more physically strong already, which really makes such a big difference because he has tremendous size, right? But once he starts using that to his best ability, that makes a huge difference. Add on top of that, I mean, he fits right in, I think, with his passing ability, and he has some defensive versatility. So he looks more ready than I would have expected him to from day one, and I'm excited to see how he continues to develop.
Yes, and that's the one thing I noticed from high school as well. It just felt like, even though he was the tallest player on the court at the time, it just felt like he was getting bullied by other players who were smaller than him during high school. And speaking of Zoom, I remember it was the game before going into the Sweet 16 in Kentucky, and I remember they ran a Zoom play, and I'm like, he read that perfectly. He got the ball down, towards the goal, and he got an assist. I'm like, wow, perfect.
Yeah, so the one guy that it feels like it's been like a polarizing topic where some people are on the end that this guy's going to be a one and done top five pick, but some people aren't on that side with Jasper Johnson. What did you think about just him in general, like being able to see him because he joined late, but in the summer. But like, what did you think about him seeing him in person?
Yeah, so Jasper, I don't know. Again, right? It's a very deep backcourt. So I don't know if he's going to have the minutes to be a one and done, but I will say I was very encouraged by what I saw from him, right? His his willingness to buy in to this program and to put the work in and to stay after and keep getting shots up really impressed me. I think he looks more ready defensively than he did 6 months ago for sure. And I like that. Again, he's another guy who he can play with and without the ball in his hands, right? So whether or not he is a one and done this year, he's still a tremendously talented player. And when you look at the value he can bring the program, I think that there's, some value he can bring in the short term and a lot in the long term as well.
Yeah, I would love for him to be a 2-year player for sure at Kentucky, and I believe he'll come off the bench for sure his freshman year. But still talking a little bit more about the backcourt, what do you hope to see in Jaylen Lowe this upcoming year? I know he averaged nearly 17 points per game last year, along with 4 rebounds and 5.5 assists, but his shooting percentage wasn't the best. He had 38% from the field and then 27% from the three-point line.
Yeah, so I think you hit the nail on the head there, right? It was obviously a much different team context at Pitt. And I think that's the biggest thing to keep in mind. But he just wasn't efficient enough as a scorer, and that both hurts, the team and also hurts his pro prospects. So I think the big thing for him is now that he's playing in a system that'll suit him better and around more talent, frankly, and more spacing, I want to see if that efficiency can go up, especially, with I'd say the two things are how efficient can he be at the cup and how efficient can he be with his pull-up jumper. If his three-pointer can really be a threat, then that just opens up his entire game.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I don't know if you saw it during pro day, but I remember I saw players going under the screen yesterday instead of going over top, and he was actually making threes and consistently making them last night.
Yep. No, very encouraging to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for him, but I'm going to switch it to the front court and talk about the guy that's going to be special whenever he's back. But how impressive has it been to see how far Jayden Quaintance has come so quick with his ACL recovery?
Yeah, it's big time. I mean, his willingness to put in the work has shown through in this process. You don't just like walk into this kind of speedy recovery. You still, of course, want him to, not push it, not force it. But to see him already on the court doing some drills is really encouraging. And the fact is, he is an incredibly special player. And whenever it is that he gets back on the court, he's going to make a huge impact, especially on the defensive end. But he'll be a real catalyst there for sure.
Yeah, there was a clip where he dunked the ball yesterday, and then later Quaintance asked the assistant coach, Mikael McLean, if he could dunk, and he was like, "No, no, no, like you can't dunk anymore." But and then we're going to continue to talk about Kentucky basketball. How rare is it to see a college team this deep from top to bottom?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at, the teams that are able to make deep runs and some of, the better teams from the last several years, depth is the name of the game, right? Any team that is able to make a deep run at the pro level or the college level, they have injury luck and they also have insurance for when they, inevitably do have some injuries, right? And again, having probably about 13 guys that they can comfortably put on the court, maybe more, is huge for them.
Mhm.
So I think that that's just when you look for teams that can really make a deep run, that's a big thing for me is having that depth and that reliability.
Mhm.
Yeah, obviously we like me for me and Chris, we care most about what these guys are going to do while they're in Lexington. But looking ahead for these guys, what players look the most NBA ready to you as of right now?
So I would say, I mean, like outside of because Ortega and Jayden Quaintance were hurt. Obviously they're both very NBA ready. Jayden especially so. I give the nod to Cam Williams first of all. I thought he looked great, really versatile. Loved the shooting, the rebounding, the effort, the defense, and then you know I actually think that Musa Dioubate could be a guy who sneaks onto a roster and can really carve out a role, right? He's another guy who's just a pure winner. He leads by example. He has a great motor. He beats guys who are 5 inches taller than him for rebounds. So those guys stand out, especially when you look at the positional size and versatility that they really value in the NBA.
Mhm. Understood. And what do you think Kentucky has to do to win, number nine this year, the national championship?
I think, I mean, again, Jaden coming back and being and staying healthy will be big, especially if he's moving like he did last year. Obviously, you never know exactly if someone's going to move after an injury. But beyond that, I think it's just everyone buying into their roles, right? And that's not really a question mark, but it's just going to be huge. If you have guys who are electing to play in the system instead of just playing within themselves, that'll make a big difference. I think you so often see defensive intensity being huge and making big runs, which is another thing I see with this team. And I think the thing that some people might not want to talk about as much is like this is a team that can win the math game and that like they're going to take a lot of efficient shots, right? And if they're just getting a lot of clean looks at the rim and clean three-pointers, they're a team that could really threaten on both ends, right?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, overall for this team compared to last year's, there's obviously crazy, crazy differences. But how would you compare this team's like energy and chemistry in general compared to last year's?
So I think it's really, especially at this point in the season, seeing this level of energy and passion is really encouraging, right? Um, the chemistry I think is going to be really telling once you have, Ortega back in and Jane Quaintance back in. But to be this ready to go and chomping at the bit and like we are ready to play anyone that isn't ourselves as soon as possible, like that's always something to be excited about. And it's that kind of energy and passion that I think can be really encouraging, right? You have guys who are laying out for 50-50 balls in an open gym setting effectively just because of the love of the game and that it's hard to compare to that.
Yeah, and I remember to start out the scrimmage or pro day yesterday, basically the players at first on one side of the court they were diving for the loose ball. Basically, the assistant coach would throw out, they would roll, and then of course they would fall onto the ball. And then the other side of the court, I found it interesting, but basically the defensive player was trying to get to the spot first before the offensive player to try and draw a charge. I mean, I'm like, are we going to use that during the game potentially?
Yeah, that's crazy effort. That's the wild drills that I love to see.
Yeah. And just talking a little bit more about this team, what do you expect for Brandon Garrison going into year two under the Mark Pope offense? Like he looked a lot better, yet last night compared to last year. It feels like he's more in shape and stronger.
For sure. I'm really glad that he returned. He's someone who I think will benefit from being within the system for 2 years, if not more, of course. He he looked really encouraging. I think that he's someone who he has kind of some versatility on both ends. He plays hard, he rebounds well. I again, you when you have someone like Amari coming out last year, like it's hard to compare that, but there is some like grab and go to his game, right? Some toughness, some skill, playmaking out of the short roll, right? So like you said, if he's in shape, which he seems like he is, I think that another year in this system, he'll be more comfortable and he'll be able to fit into that kind of playmaking big role pretty well.
Yes, and I believe he'll be the perfect starting center until Jayden Quaintance gets back. And I'm excited to see what both Garrison and Moreno can do before Quaintance gets back.
Yeah, you referenced Mo Diabate. I'm just curious, like defensively, he's obviously going to bring like a spark, and he's going to bring like the hustle plays and all the intangibles that he has. But what's he going to do offensively for this team? Like how important and impactful do you think he'll be on the offensive side?
So I think what's nice about the way this team is set up offensively is that he's not going to be overtasked, right? And at any given time, you'll have probably at least three players who are going to be the primary shot options over him. And that's a good thing because he's someone who he can thrive cutting off of good players, getting putbacks, attacking a closeout, whatever it might be. He has a little bit of a funky shot. It was falling in the pro day, of course. If it's falling at a good enough level to warrant closeouts and keep the defense honest, he's such an aggressive player attacking the basket that I think that'll be huge. But he's not going to be someone that is running pick and rolls very much, if I were to guess. But he's just someone who he fills in the gaps, he does the little things, and just needs to make the most of the opportunities he gets.
Yeah, and speaking a little bit more about Mo Diabate, how much more physical do you think this year's team will be compared to last year? I know a lot of fans were always like getting upset with UK because they weren't physical enough last year.
He is the face of college basketball physicality. Like he is just an absolute like junkyard dog. Like everything you want to see as far like he plays in a way that sets a culture by itself, I feel like, and it's not just him, honestly, when I look at the physicality on this team, but I think he is maybe the best example of how physical this year's team looks.
Yeah, and who are some other physical players you think, like other than probably Otega Away, because he was very physical as well last year?
Yeah, I mean Ortega, Jayden Quaintance will be physical. But beyond that, like Cam Williams, I think looks, ready to kind of bump bodies a bit. We were just talking about Brandon Garrison, like I think he'll be ready to go in that way as well. And we touched on a little bit with Malachi Moreno, like it's a little bit more of a question mark still, but if he keeps embracing it, it could do wonders for his game.
I definitely agree.
Yeah, so I have one last person that I want to ask about. This is the main guy that I've been like looking towards asking you about because you referred to like the returners early on in this interview where that was one of your key things. So what will like a year two Colin Chandler look like? Because it seems like he's already made strides, and now I'm just curious to know your thoughts on what he'll look like.
He's such a fun like backcourt complementary piece, right? He can make shots, he can get his own, he can create for others. He he feels pretty malleable, which is a good thing, right? In that, he might not ever be a star starting point guard or anything, but he is going to find ways to contribute. And he also brings some toughness on the defensive end too, but I think the nice thing about him is you put him next to Jalen, who's on the ball more, and he can make the most of his opportunities. Or maybe Jalen subs out. Maybe, Aberdeen is next to Colin, and all of a sudden the ball's in his hands more. I think he can kind of, you know, ramp up and down in his usage and his on-ball touches really well, which I think gives them a lot of versatility in the lineups they can deploy.
Yeah, and you also just spoke of Denzel Aberdeen. What do you think he'll bring to this year's roster for Kentucky? Of course, he won the national championship at Florida, but what can he do this year at UK?
Yeah, he's another guy who's actually I honestly should have mentioned in the physicality part. Like he's a tough dude. He's another versatile backcourt piece who he can handle some touches on the ball, probably best off the ball. I think the big key for him is like he shot 35% from three last year, I think. If he can maintain that or even improve on it, that would be huge for him. But he's another guy who he can carve out his own space, he can get his own bucket, but he's best attacking a tilted defense, right? And he's a tough dude on the defensive end as well. And like he reminds me of Dioubate in a way where he brings that motor and intensity that others, you'd hope they emulate, but in the backcourt.
Understood.
Yeah, I love it. So actually, I did say Colin was the last guy that I really wanted to talk about, but the really like interesting layer to this, like you said, it's like 13 deep. This roster is absolutely unbelievable when it comes to depth. But the guy that's at the very, very end, Braden Hawthorne, like he looks like a toothpick, but like he obviously shows the traits that he's going to be special down the road. Like, what do you think it looks like for him in his college career? Like, do you think he's more of like a maybe he sits this year and there's going to be some tampering in the portal trying to get him, and maybe Kentucky can keep him? But like, what do you think he'll end up being like once he's able to play?
Yeah, I'm really honestly beyond Trent Noah, like the guy who was like a pleasant surprise for me watching. I'm really glad you asked about him. He has a lot of stuff you look for in a wing, right? He has, a 7'2" plus wingspan. He's, long, rangy, moves really well, covers ground quickly. But beyond that, like again, at least in the pro day, was shooting it quite well. Showed I don't think he's gonna be again another guy who won't be an on-ball guy a ton, but like, he had a little bit of passing, he had a little bit of dribbling in his game. And when you have that foundation of the physical tools and that dribble pass shoot skill set coming along, nicely as well, the upside's high, right? Like you said, the his body probably isn't ready yet, and he has, ways to improve on both ends, but he's someone who feels like he has a lot of upside to tap into down the line. I can't speak to whether that'll be, with UK or not, of course. But I'm sure he's someone that they're excited about and will develop nicely. And when you speak about depth too, like you probably don't want to play him a ton
Yeah.
because the body isn't super ready and is a little raw, but I could see him giving some valuable contributions this year too, right? It's not like he didn't look like he didn't belong next to those guys. He looked like he can bring his own contributions at this level too. And the more he physically fills out, I think the more he'll earn reps too.
Yeah, and I'm not expecting him to probably play in every game, but if he gets at least, 5 to 10 minutes per game, whether it be against a small team and UK is blowing them out, but I would love to definitely see him get some clock. Another player I want to mention though is the Croatian player Andrea Jelovic. I mean, he's obviously from Croatia. What do you think about him on Pro Day?
Yeah, he's really skilled, right? He's, that kind of prototypical stretch four in a way. And I think it's nice because if he can hold up defensively and move well enough, I think he kind of gives a nice like counterpunch to Diabate and can play off of Cam Williams well. Like he kind of gives a different look there where it's like, okay, if we want to maximize our spacing, we can throw this guy in here, right? I think he has the skill level too, where he can finish with either hand around the basket, has some footwork, has just good feel in general, where maybe you can give it to him on the block against a mismatch. Maybe you can get him going the short roll as well. Like I'm pretty intrigued by his offensive skill set.
Mhm.
I don't know if that'll ever be like a starter's minutes this year or not, but I think it's the type of thing where it's like if they really want to embrace shooting and spacing and pace and just being a high octane offense, he can be a real great piece in moving towards that.
Yeah. Do you think he could grow into that Andrew Carr role later on into his basketball career here at UK?
I think it's a really interesting comparison, right? I mean, Andrew obviously has like those are big shoes to fill.
Mhm.
But if the shot and the skill level is as real as it looked in the pro day, I could absolutely see him being able to step into a higher value role down the line. I mean, he has, plenty of time ahead of him in his college career too, where it's like he can completely change his game in the next few years for all we know.
Yeah, even though the NCAA listed him as a sophomore instead of a freshman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm good. I ran through some questions that I had, but yeah, I mean, I'd love to have you back on because I'm sure a ton will pop up. But I mean, great insight though. It was
Yeah,
awesome
I've
talking to. I
got
don't know if you have more.
I've got a few more questions left to ask, but it's all good. Just a couple more questions. Did you see anybody improve their NBA draft stock last night by chance?
So I think for me, like I would again look at Cam Williams because the big question with Cam, I mean, he was working out with Steph Curry recently. Like, there's been buzz about him for the draft. There was buzz about him from the draft last year, but he's going up from Tulane to Kentucky, right? And that's just a very different level of competition and probably a little bit of a different role this year as well. But he is physically filled out. He's tall. He has some length. He has a like wildly quick release for his size, and he competes, right? Those are a lot of the things you look for in a role player at the next level. So I would imagine that NBA scouts in attendance saw that and said, okay, like this is pretty interesting, right? This is pretty interesting to see going forward. I think if he can play similarly this year to how he did at Tulane last year, he should be a real name that scouts are watching closely.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I know a lot of UK fans were talking about how it looks like his jump shot looks a lot quicker compared to last year at Tulane as well.
For sure.
Yeah. A few more questions I have for you. How do you evaluate a team that has to be dialed back because of how hard they've been competing? I know during media day the other day that I think it was Muhammad Diabate. He accidentally elbowed Braden Hawthorne in his mouth and lips, and he had to get stitches. So, like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it a little bit, but like the compete level is awesome to see. I think both from like, for fans looking on, like it's easy to root for that, but also from like a coach's perspective or a scout's perspective, like players that come from that type of system really project well. Guys who can motivate themselves, get themselves excited, who are again like guys who truly practice how they play. That's pro tendencies there, and that's really big. Obviously, like you never like to see your guys like needing stitches because of each other, but no, it's that's a testament to the culture, right? Of competitiveness, and motor and toughness that they have.
Yeah, for sure. Cameron, do you have any other questions? I've got a couple more that I'll
I'm good. I asked all that I had, honestly.
Yeah. Just talking a little bit more, who do you think will be the starting five for this year's roster if you had to just guess?
Okay, so I thought you might ask me about this, so I did a little exercise yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Assuming full health, we're gonna put so they can give a few different looks, right? But what I would do would be Jalen at the one, Ortega at the two, Cam at the three, Mo at the four, and Jayden at the five. But if they wanted to, move Cam to the four, I think they could move Ortega to the three and then bring in like a Denzel Aberdeen at the two.
Yeah.
Or like we were saying with Yelovich, like he could potentially end up playing the four if the defense is good enough. But that would be my initial thought of
Yeah.
what the starting five looks like.
And I assume you would put Brandon Garrison starting until Quaintance gets back healthy.
Exactly. I'd have Brandon Garrison starting at the five and probably Aberdeen at the two, but again, they have some versatility in their kind of like two through four spots there.
Yeah, you have exactly what I'm thinking for the most part. I've got Lowe at the point, away at the two, Cam Williams at the three, Diabate at the four, and then Garrison at the five to start out. And I could see that changing a little bit. I could see having a three-guard lineup to start out the year potentially with Lowe, Aberdeen away, and then Diabate and Garrison. So it'll be interesting to see that.
for
Yeah, I
sure.
do have a question about because you mentioned moving like Cam to the four if they need to. Do you think Cam, like with his length and the way he plays, like is he one of those dudes that you could see playing two, three, or four, depending on what lineup they're trying to throw out there?
So two is interesting, right? I want to see how well he can move with guards because it's just going to be like, can he stay in front of his man at that point? I wouldn't rule it out entirely. Three definitely feels the most natural, but because he's filled out, he's physical, he's long, he rebounds. Like I feel better about him being able to slide to the four as well, right? He might not be quite as like he might not be quite as suited to it as Mo, even though Mo's probably a little bit shorter. But I think if they wanted to go for a stretch look, it could definitely work out.
Yeah. It'll be definitely interesting to see who UK lines up. Just speaking real quick, UK plays against Purdue in the exhibition game in a couple weeks. What are you expecting from that?
That should be a fun matchup. Purdue looks tremendous as well, especially like their backcourt is really interesting, really deep, and I think it'll be a good test on both ends for UK's backcourt because you have, arguably the best point guard in the country there at Purdue, but then you have some good defenders, right? CJ Cox was one of the better guard defenders in the country last year. They've got Omar Mayer coming in, who's supposed to be like a dynamo off the bench. Like they've got the perfect backcourt, I think, to kind of be a measuring stick on both ends. And then on the other end, like if you want to talk about physicality, they have some physical front court pieces, right? So beyond just the fact that they're a very good team and they're a good measuring stick in that way, they're a team that I think uniquely matches up with Kentucky and can kind of help be a progress report, basically.
Yeah, and you can't forget about Braden Smith as well. Like he's going to be so great in this
Oh
upcoming.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll
Yeah, they're
definitely.
definitely a team that like brings, like you said, I hadn't really thought about it in depth until you brought up like breaking down their roster with the physicality, the elite guards, and then they just have the age that's going to be able to compete with how Kentucky is with one of the more veteran teams in the sport.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for that exhibition game. A couple more questions. What are your expectations and goals for the UK this upcoming year? Like, are you expecting them to win the SEC regular season, SEC tournament, maybe even potentially winning the NCAA title?
Yeah, I mean it's always like, having worked with college teams, like it's always tough to tell what you've got until you've played against someone else, which is why again the Purdue thing would be huge.
Mhm.
But I would expect them to be right at the top of the conference and one of the better teams in the country. At the end of the day, like the SEC is in its, golden age of basketball right now. And being a top team in that conference means you're, right up there in the country too. So I would expect them to really compete well. And the nice thing is like they're gonna have some real tests throughout the non-con that can speak to that a little bit more too, right?
Mhm.
But I mean, you have NBA level talent as well as, just very good college players combined. You have athleticism, shooting, and on off ball versatility. They have the ability to throw different looks at teams. I think that they're a team that can kind of adapt well to different playing styles too, which should serve them well down the line.
Mhm. Yeah, so any prediction for winning the title or not?
I I never like to go place predictions on that. They
Uh,
might not be my number one for that, but I would not count them out either.
yeah, I feel like this year should be like Elite Eight or bust at least this year. Of course, it's always supposed to be a championship or bust at UK, but I feel like if they don't at least make it to the Elite Eight, I feel like it's going to be a failure of a season.
Yeah, I do have one last question just because I didn't think about it like while we were in it, but what do you think is like the like is there one specific like X factor on this team where it's like this has got to have to go good or this team could end up not bottoming out but not getting up to what the potential of the team is?
That's an interesting one. I don't know if the whole team is riding on that way. I'd say a couple things though that like could be real game changers if they do happen. So the first I would say we talked about a little bit is that pull up three ball for Jaylen Lowe. If that's hitting, that opens up the entire offense to a different degree. He becomes a real threat from anywhere on the court. The second thing I'd say is JQ, if he comes along offensively. Like he's always had interesting flashes on that end, but he's just more of a project offensively than he is defensively. If he can really come along and fit in and, you know, be a real difference maker offensively, I mean, he's one of the best bigs in the country at that point, right? And then Ortega, I mean, he's gotten a little bit better in different ways every year, right? I would love to see him take a leap either in that shooting or in the playmaking this year. I know he's improved in both ways since he was a freshman,
Mhm.
but if he keeps improving in that way too, I mean, they have so much spacing and versatility at that point that it would be
Mhm.
a real catalyst for him.
Yeah, I think my X factor is honestly Denzel Aberdeen, whether he's starting or coming off the bench. Like, I want him to provide productive minutes for sure, whether it be scoring, defending, whatever it might be. But I really think Aberdeen might be the X factor this upcoming year. Yeah. And I want to ask you a couple of recruiting questions and then we can get off the podcast. But Tyron Stokes, obviously, he's not committed anywhere at this time of this podcast. Who knows? He might be committed by Friday. But what do you think about the number one overall player in the class of 2026 and potentially Kentucky might be ending up with his commitment?
He is such a unique player. Uh, like he is there are very few players who are built like him, move like him, and understand the game like him at his age. And the best part is, as impactful as he already is, he's just scratching the surface. Um, he was just playing at Border League this weekend in Las Vegas, and there would be moments where he would just basically say, "No, you're not going to score. You're not even going to complete a pass right now," and just be an absolute defensive wrecking ball. And his offense is probably what's talked about more. Like he is a very talented player. People have uh, kind of levied some criticisms of the strength of the top of the class. But there's a lot of talent there still, and Tyron is a real difference maker of a player for sure.
Understood. And just talking about one other recruit that Kentucky is obviously like trying to get a commitment of with Deron Rippey. He was, of course, at UK from Monday through today. He was at Pro Day yesterday. And what do you think about his game? And then what are the chances, UK might land him as well?
Yeah, I first saw Duran at the beginning of his sophomore year up in Rhode Island, and he was already incredible. Let's just get that on the table. Like he already had the foundation of being this dynamic athlete, elite downhill presence, was really developing as a point guard at that point in time. Some defensive upside, but was just a force downhill. And since then, he has just blossomed, taking a real step every year. Another guy who is just not just playing at Border League, but arguably had the best performance of Border League from start to finish. I mean, his jump shot is a real weapon now, and that was a question mark, honestly, for most of his high school career. He's absolutely like again, there was a point in time where he was candid about I'm learning to become a point guard. He is now a true through and through point guard, a great passer, tremendous on-ball defender, and still like he might be a little small, but he is powerful and strong and wildly explosive and dynamic as a mover. I can't speak to, I have no sources on where he might end up, but if I were him being at that pro day, I would be, very encouraged by, that culture and that coaching staff there. And I can tell you right now, like he'd be a really good fit
Mhm.
as someone who, is like Jaylen Lowe in that he's great getting downhill. He's a little stronger, a little more explosive at this point in his career. Projects even better defensively, and that three ball is already there. But what I love about him is he's already had plenty of experience playing next to other guards, right? Jane Chapman just committed to URI yesterday, and high major level talent that Duran not just played next to, but played off of well, and that projects so well going to a system like UK where he can play with and without the ball in his hands.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you on that. I think the biggest question for UK is right now is if Jalen Lowe will return after this year. I think the main concern for Duron Rippey is he wants to be point guard one wherever he ends up at, and with the potential of Lowe coming back for another year, it might, scare him off.
Definitely. And at the end of the day, like that's, you know, having a great player already there is not a bad thing. It's, what made the whole like a Caden Lewis thing. It's like, okay, well, we're getting Jaylen Lowe still, right? And that's a great player. But yeah, Duran would be a special talent and will be a huge addition to whatever program ends up with him for sure.
I agree with you on that. And honestly, whenever UK got the commitment of Caden Lewis, I knew he was going to be the starting point guard. I'm like, why did he think that? Like, we're of course, going to get a veteran player who's been playing college basketball for a little bit. So I was surprised by that. But I don't have anything else. Do you have anything, Cameron?
I don't think so. I mean, I've kind of just been getting these questions off the fly. So, I mean, I'll probably end up messaging you and asking more. But
Of course.
I do appreciate your time. It was very insightful and very thankful for it.
Yeah. And where can more people find you online?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. That's really my main presence. It's at Z_DUBZ26.
Mhm.
You can find my work there as well as, I work with Pro Insight. So, I do podcasts, articles, player analysis there as well.
Understood. And hopefully, a lot of people will check you out after this podcast. I know you have a following, and I appreciate talking with you every now and then.
For sure. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Yeah.
And of course, thank you all for watching and listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, whatever it might be. We appreciate the support, and we'll have more podcast episodes in the future. Thank you all.